Hi, Doreen. It's great to have you here with us. Thank you so much for joining us at this launch event. So we've just heard that about the latest data on the mobile gender gap. We'd just be keen to hear what is your reaction to these findings, and what do you find is the most sort of interesting or important finding, and why?
Well, thank you, Claire. It's great to be here. I was excited to see the new report. I think there's some good news there that the gender gap in mobile internet use continues to reduce, which is great. But I think we have to ask, is it at the right speed? And how long will it take before we reach gender equality in use and mobile ownership? I think one of the key findings of the report is that the main barriers to use of mobile internet are this lack of literacy and digital skills, and of course, affordability, particularly the cost of internet enabled handsets. And while I would say this isn't new, I think it's a really important finding because, unlike ever before, I think the events of the past year have shown us that connectivity, it's not a nice to have, but it's a must have. And it's a must have that so many women and girls did not have during the pandemic. And so they were therefore not able to work, to learn, or to access needed health information. And I think the long term impact of that is really concerning. And in particular, I would say in the education space, because distance learning initiatives didn't reach the millions of kids out there, and of course, in particular, girls. And what kind of scares me is that estimates indicate that many girls, 20 million girls, they estimate, may never return to school following these classroom closures. So that's kind of scary. And I think to tackle the barriers that the report has exposed, we really need to focus on digital skills, affordability, as I mentioned. I would also add, Claire, safety issues, security, lack of relevant online content, and also cultural factors, which are often a barrier, as you know. And this was reflected, of course, in the Equals research report in 2019, taking stock data and evidence on gender digital equality. So we have to keep those things in mind from our side. This is why ITU is focusing on policy and regulatory guidelines and frameworks to help countries to adopt approaches that will then make ICTs more affordable. I would also add, Claire, that we have a number of initiatives in the digital skills front, so to tap in and tackle that barrier, of course, from our Equals partnership that you know well, our digital transformation centers, as well as our project with the Enhanced Integrated Framework, which is focused on digital skills for women in LDCs.
Great, thanks. And I love your opening comment about are we going fast enough? I think that is a very important question to be asking ourselves, because certainly I personally feel we need to go faster. So as you say, we share this data, and new data. How important do you think it is to have this sort of data on this issue, and how can it really help shape the direction of efforts in space and really help us move the needle even faster and further?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, I think the data and measurement are absolutely fundamental and critical. I think you can't improve what you don't measure. And of course, GSMA plays, I would say, an invaluable role here in collecting data on the mobile gender gap. And I also think data collection during COVID was really challenging. So congrats to you guys for being able to put this all together. So for me, data is important to understand really where we are today. It's essential to paint the picture of where we are, where we're going, and whether that's the right direction or not. This data, of course, in the ITU, it's paramount to our work here as we try, of course, to leverage the power of connectivity to really help transform the lives of the underserved communities, and of course, including women and girls. ITU, as you know, also collects ICT data in different aspects of the information society. On the supply side, looking at infrastructure, access to ICTs, retail prices of ICT services, as well as the demand side info, which I think is growing in importance. So access and use of ICTs by households and individuals, And this really helps us to understand how women are doing and if they're catching up with men. I think, Claire, what is critical about data collected by GSMA and others is that it really helps us understand the problems. And with that understanding, we can then develop and advise on the appropriate policy interventions and responses. We can understand what works, what doesn't work, and where we might need to reformulate and re-strategize. I would say focusing on the great report this year, it certainly shows that we need to work harder together on the space of digital skills and affordability, as I mentioned before. I also want to mention at the ITU, we have this digital parity, gender parity score. And so in terms of internet access on a scale where parity equals 1, right now we're at 0.87. So we have a long way to go. But I think let's remember that even within that figure, I think it hides the reality for many women. And of course, in LDCs, only 1 in 7 women is using the internet compared to 1 in 4 men. And that's really a glaring gap, one that we need to urgently close. And to do that, I think we need the right policy interventions, we need collaboration, and we need partnerships.
Great, thanks. I mean, I couldn't agree more, and it's great to also have your data out there and to really highlight this issue. As you say, it needs to also be disaggregated, and we can look at the different, where the gaps are the biggest. So, thanks a lot. So just, I mean, it's been 2 years since you took office as the new director of ITU. You've touched on it a bit in some of your previous answers, but just wondering if you could tell us a bit more about what ITU is doing to address the digital gender divide, and and how kind of collaborative partnerships can help fast track kind of this closure of the digital gender gap.
So let me start with the collaborative partnership piece, which I think those kinds of partnerships are necessary if we want to scale impact, if we want to bring the strength of each actor to fast track, because I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to be fast tracking, closing the gender digital divide. There's a lot of great work being done out there. And I think by coming together, we can really complement each other's work and also combine efforts wherever possible so that we can reach as many women and as many girls as we can around the world as quickly as possible. And of course, I think a great example is the Equals Global Partnership that ITU co-founded together with GSMA. You remember well, Matt's remembers well, UN Women and others. And it's such a great example because we have 100 collaborators, more than 100, around the world. We've delivered many concrete things from digital skills training. Now we have our new certification program. We've done lots of mentoring. We have our research projects that are focusing on the digital divide and identifying potential solutions. We've got our online training, our hands-on workshops, the Tech for Girls workshops that GSMA has brought to the table. And also we're excited as part of Equals to be co-leading the Generation Equality Technology and Innovation Action Coalition. And for that, we're looking for commitments. So any commitment makers are welcome to join us in that space. Of course, we have our Equals in Tech Awards, which is important. We do that every year, and it puts the spotlight on those that are actually out there making a difference to close the digital gender gap. So that's exciting. And our call for nominations is open for 2021. On top of that, we also target girls, younger girls, with our Girls in ICT Day annual celebrations. This is a big year for us because it's our 10-year anniversary. So we're doing a year-long celebration with our 10 moments of Girls in ICT Day. And that's really an exciting effort as well. Other things, Claire, that we're doing, we have our Girls Can Code initiatives that we're running in the Americas as well as Africa, which is super exciting. A new endeavor is in the space of cybersecurity. where women professionally are very underrepresented in that space. So we've started a global mentorship program for women in cybersecurity. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is our network of women for the ITU development sector and for our upcoming World Telecommunications Development Conference. And that network is all about increasing women's participation in the conference preparatory process and the conference itself, and encouraging women to take up leadership positions in the ITU conference and our study groups. And so that's a really exciting new network that we launched. It's growing in importance, and I think it's generating lots of excitement. And I guess, Claire, just to close on this point, I think we're interested in joining forces with anyone that's committed to closing the digital gender gap. So I think, as I said, it's only through collaboration and partnerships that we'll be able to make a difference. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot. And it's very inspirational to hear about all the things that you're doing. And it's been really also a privilege and honor for us to be part of some of those collaborations. As you say, it's so important if we're going to tackle this issue. So I just really want to thank you so much for your time today and for being such a great champion of such an important issue. It's really a real privilege to have you at our launch event. So thank you so much, Doreen.
Thank you, Claire. It's been a great pleasure and really happy to be here. Thank you.